Before starting this video, I do want to give a thank you to my patrons that support the channel. And if you would like to support the channel, there are some great benefits for you in the link down below. So with that, let's get into today's video. Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Devin coming back at you with another video today on PubStomp MTG. It is Bilbo Baggins' celebration for his 111th birthday, and you are all invited, except for you, Lobelius Sackville Baggins. So with this deck, we're going to be pushing life gain to the max as we're celebrating Bilbo's birthday. So Bilbo is a 3-mana Abzan commander, halfling rogue, which is pretty fitting. Obviously, he was a thief in the Hobbit book. So he has a couple abilities. If you would gain life, you gain that much life plus 1 instead. You could also pay 2 in Abzan colors to tap him, exile Bilbo Birthday Celebrant, search your library for any number of creature cards, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Activate only if you have 111 or more life. To be quite honest, this would be a perfect companion with Umori the Collector. So the card type you would choose would be creatures, and those spells would cost 1 less to cast because of Umori if he's on the battlefield. And because of Bilbo's second ability, you want to have as much creatures in your deck so that you could put them directly onto the battlefield if you have 111 more life. However, with this deck, I'm strictly focusing on Bilbo Birthday Celebrant. I'm not using Umori the Collector as a companion. It's more of a suggestion and a thought if you wanted to try it out. But to be quite honest, Bilbo Birthday Celebrant is a pretty straightforward strategy. You want to gain as much life as you can so that you could put a whole bunch of creatures on the battlefield directly because of Bilbo's second ability. So it is Bilbo's birthday celebration after all. We need to make sure we have a lot of different hobbits that will fit the theme of the birthday especially. But first, a wizard is never late nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to, like Gandalf the White. Unfortunately, the other Gandalfs couldn't make it in this version, mainly because they're in other color pairs that won't fit into Bilbo's theme. But he does have a couple great abilities. He does have Flash, perfect and thematic because he arrives whenever he means to exactly. And you could yourself cast legendary spells and artifact spells as though they had Flash. But most importantly, if a legendary permanent or an artifact entering or leaves the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So we could get a lot of extra triggers out of Gandalf with a couple of cards I'm going to mention next. However, I did want to talk about Delighted Halfling. This is an amazing card. Honestly, this is probably going to be one of the best cards out of the set because it's a 1-drop mana dork. It taps for a colorless mana, or it could tap 1 mana of any color, spend that mana only to cast a legendary spell, and that spell can't be countered. This is going to be an absolute staple in many green decks to come for sure. I did also want to talk about Meriadoc Brandybuck and Peregrine Took. So both of these complement each other pretty well. Meriadoc attacks, and then you'll make 2 food tokens instead of 1 with Peregrine, and we could use those food tokens to gain 3 life each time we sacrifice them. They did gain a little bit of experience by having new cards with Merry Warden of Isengard and Pippin Warden of Isengard. So Merry and Pippin make a commander pair by themselves, but they do have partner with each other. Merry does have a great ability. Whenever 1 or more artifacts enter the battlefield under your control, like food tokens, you create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. Lifelink perfect. This ability only triggers once each turn. So you can make a bigger board state with Merry. Also with Pippin, you can make a food token by paying 1 and tapping him. On top of that, you can sacrifice 4 food tokens. Other creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain haste until end of turn, activated only as a sorcery. So both of these complement each other very well. Merry's making the board bigger, and then Pippin is making an overrun effect for our creatures. Again, we're going to be making a lot of food tokens in the battlefield, mainly with Samwise Gamgee. So for 2 mana, whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you create a food token. That's simple. Also on top of that, you sacrifice 3 foods, return target historic card from your graveyard to the hand. So if your hobbits are stuffed and they can't eat another bite of food, you could sacrifice 3 food tokens instead and put another hobbit to your hand if you'd like. So of course we also have the other pairing with Frodo Adventurous Hobbit and Sam Loyal Attendant. These are the front-facing commanders in one of the precons for Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth, but these are great in the deck nonetheless, mainly because Frodo, for example, has Vigilance, and whenever he does attack, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, which is pretty easy with all the life gain synergy we have, the ring will tempt you. Then if Frodo is your ring bearer and the ring has tempted you 2 or more times this game, you draw a card. And of course, he is partnered with Sam Loyal Attendant. He does have that ability of making a food token at the beginning of your combat, and activated abilities of food you control cost 1 less to activate. So both of these provide great value, Frodo giving you card draw and Sam providing that food so that we could gain some life for some more card draw, and especially for Bilbo's birthday. And of course, this is an absolute must. You have to add Bill the Pony because he is Bill after all. On top of that, he does make 2 food tokens when he enters the battlefield. So again, it's not whether you should or shouldn't put it into the deck. You must have Bill the Pony in the deck. Also for the memes, you may want to consider adding Second Breakfast just for fun. So of course you also have to add Bilbo's Ring, so it is 3 mana. As long as it's your turn, equipped creature has hexproof and can't be blocked. Whenever equipped creature attacks alone, you draw a card and lose 1 life. So because it is Bilbo's deck, you just have to add this in the deck. Trust me, it's a flavor win, and on top of that, you get some card draw out of it. However, let's move on to some other cards that may not be thematic to the deck necessarily, but will get us the life gain we need to win the game. Well, I mean, not win the game, but most likely win the game by putting a lot of creatures on the battlefield. So the first card that can help us get there is Combo Console of Accolation. Because we are in a 4-person game, whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, that player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So with a 4-person game, this ability stacks up super fast when people are playing non-creature spells like artifacts, instant sorceries, enchantments, battles, you name it. Another card I did want to bring to the table is Serra Ascendant. So for 1 mana, it does have lifelink, and as long as you have 30 or more life, so if you play turn 1, this is kind of cheating, but obviously very fun. Serra Ascendant gets +5/+5 and has flying. So you get a 6/6 lifelink flyer just for 1 mana. Yeah, this is absolutely insane, no question about it. I did also want to bring up the Soul Sisters like Soul Warden, Soul's Attendant, and Essence Warden. Simply whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. All these have that same ability, so whenever an opponent's creature is entering the battlefield, whenever our own creatures are entering the battlefield, we're gaining life no matter what. These are absolutely insane includes, definitely ones you want to put on the list. In a similar fashion, I thought I had to add Prosperous Innkeeper. So he is from the Dungeons & Dragons universe, but he still is a halfling, so it does count for halfling tribal if you want to go that route. But when he does enter the battlefield, you create a treasure token, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life, so another way to gain life in the process. So there are some great benefits to gaining life by having Alhammarret's Archive for 5 mana. If you would gain life, you gain twice that much life instead, and the same fashion with drawing cards. And also we do have Well of Lost Dreams for 4 mana. Whenever you gain life, you may pay X, where X is less than or equal to the amount of life you gained. If you do, draw X cards. Even though they are a little steeping at 5 mana and 4 mana, they are great at what they do, especially when we're gaining so much life. We're going to get so much value out of them. Speaking of gaining life, we also do have Beacon of Immortality. So for 6 mana, you double target player's life total, shuffle Beacon of Immortality into its owner's library. So this is definitely a great way to meet Bilbo's requirements of having 111 life total. Say for example we have 60 life and then we play this spell, we will then get 120 life, meeting the requirement for Bilbo Baggins. However, if we're gaining so much life, we must have Rock's Faith Mender, mainly because if you would gain life, you'd gain twice that much life instead. So with Beacon of Mortality, for example, you'd be gaining a heck ton of life. However, let's take a focus to our Wincons. Bilbo is actually a Wincon himself, but we do have other ways where we could win the game if we need to. So this first one is pretty simple but pretty effective with Blossoming Bogbeast. So for 5 mana, whenever he attacks, you gain 2 life. Then creatures you control gain trample and get +X until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. So let's just say for example you gain 10 life before you attacked with Blossoming Bogbeast. You'll give your creatures +12 because you gain that extra 2 life with it. So this could definitely be a great overrun ability against your opponents. Also, of course, I had to mention Akroma as well, mainly because it's an absolute game ender, mainly because if you do control your commander, you can have both of these abilities, or you can choose one or the other if Bilbo's not on the battlefield. Plus, you can cast at instant speed. If people are blocking into it, you can kill their creatures in the process. Or you could honestly do it before combat and win the game that way if you do have enough creatures and if their power is huge. However, if you want to just straight up win the game, we do also have Felidar Sovereign. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 40 or more life, you win the game. If you played this on like turn 1, I know this is very unlikely, but the next turn you go around, if you haven't lost any life, you'd win the game straight up. But again, usually in most cases you're not playing this turn 1 by any means, but it's just a fun thing to think about. If you have 40 or more life, you'll just win the game straight up. You could also throw in the Sanguine Bond and Exquisite Blood combo. Whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. And with Sanguine Bond, whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. This also works with a couple different cards like Vito, Thorn of Duskrose, and also Dina Soul Steeper. So those 3 cards and Exquisite Blood combo with each other so that you will make opponents lose life and you gain life, and your opponents will lose more life and you gain life into an infinite spin until your opponents are dead. However, these cards actually work separately great outside of the combo, mainly with Exquisite Blood. Whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. Say for example, you swung in with a big army that had lifelink, you gain life, and on top of that, gain life on top of with Exquisite Blood. So if you do want a way to win the game, these are some of the cards you may want to consider when making Bilbo. However, that's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and coming to this party with Bilbo's birthday. Honestly, this card is absolutely oozing with flavor, mainly gaining life so that you get up to that 111th birthday. Also with the flavor of exiling himself, almost like when he put on the ring so that he could get away from the party, so that he could leave. Is just a great way that we could bring this character to life. However, let me know down below, what are your thoughts about Bilbo Birthday Celebrant? Do you plan on building him? What other cards do you plan on building around in this new set? Let me know down below in the comments. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And with that out of the way, thank you for stopping by.